Hello, Jack Saunders here from Box to Belly. I hope you're all well. We're going to do a cooking sketch today, but we'll get to that later. I'm here in collaboration with Freddie from Morehouse Farm, and he asked me, he says, Jack, would you do some cooking demonstrations just to show people what to get up to when they buy some of his meat? And I leapt at the idea because, I'm a big believer and a big advocate for farm to fork eating. Often these people who are, doing farm to fork direct to the consumer, they care a lot more about the animals because they're often seeing them from birth right up to the point of slaughter. They've got a good working relationship with what are often the smaller abattoirs, and they've got a good relationship with the butcher as well. So it's all, completely transparent, and I think it's a better way, slightly new way of eating meat. I think it's a better way. You're supporting British farming, British agriculture directly, and I think the quality shows in the end product as well. So today we're going to do some steak. I'll talk a bit about the steak later, but we're going to do a cream and mushroom sauce. So a quick run through the ingredients, please. We've got there a rump steak, and now that is a full rump. I will get to that later and show you what that's all about. We've got some white wine, some for me to slurp at as we go. But then we've got some there in a bit of a carafe type thing for the recipe. Olive oil, salt, double cream, pepper, some flat leaf parsley, which I will show you how to cut up and how I cut it up. Some chestnut mushrooms, some real butter, some garlic, quite coarsely chopped, and then a shallot, quite finely chopped. This will all go to make what I think is the king of sides, a mushroom in cream sauce. So here we've got Mrs. Beaton's household management book. Now, if you've watched some of my other videos, you'll have heard me mention this, but I thought without, any copyright scandals or anything like that, I thought I'd just show you a little bit about it. So, Mrs. Beaton, this is not just a cookbook. That's the oven going off. I don't know why it has to play the Kazakhstani national anthem every time it's come up to temperature. But these are some of the pictures in Mrs. Beaton's book, and she goes into the detail, not just cooking, but look at that, she goes into the detail of different cattle breeds, of sides of beef, just to show that, not so long ago in this country, people had a much closer relationship with their food, and I think that's absolutely fantastic. Anyway, what we're going to look at today, why I wanted to speak to you today on Mrs. Beaton, for those of you who don't know, Mrs. Beaton was a Victorian lady who wrote this household management book. It goes into different things like, how to set your table, depending on which season it is and all that. But there's some very good recipes in here, and I'm just going to read a bit, if I may, from here. And here we go. It's called A Recipe for Fried Rump Steak. Although broiling is a far superior method of cooking steaks to frying them, yet when the cook is not very expert, the latter mode may be adopted, and when properly done, this dish may really look very inviting and the flavour be very good. So broiling, for those of you who don't know, is basically grilling. That's a recipe for fried rump steaks. She says broiling or grilling is better, so we're going to try grilling one or broiling one today, inspired by the late, great Mrs. Beaton. So I just thought I'd show you how I chop parsley. I might be teaching you to suck eggs, but this is how I do it. And this works with flat leaf parsley and any other type of parsley, really. But getting it really into quite a tight packet like that. And you just want it like that. You don't have to, mess about all the time. Don't take any fingers off. And that's how I chop parsley. Over to the piece de la resistance, the rump steak. Now, it is worth mentioning, ladies and gentlemen, that this recipe that I'm doing today worked with any steak, really. I just thought I'd get, traditionally cut, quite an English way of cutting them, rump steak. That is in the style, as I say, like quite an old English way. If you go into some old-fashioned butcher's shops, they have these big bits of meat, and that is a rump steak that's cut like that. But basically, please, cameraman. But what we see nowadays, instead of seeing this style rump steak, is we see what probably is originally from France, where we start seaming all the different muscles out. you're going to, butcher shops today, and they will have seamed all the different muscles out. This is quite an old English way of cutting the steak, and they've not been seamed out. So if you have a steak like that, a proper rump steak, sometimes you cut it in the middle. What you can do also is seam the muscles out so you can get the benefits from each different muscle group. So this, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you can see, but that there is, the rump pie, or the best rump steak. That's what, if you order a rump steak in a restaurant, that's what it comes like. That there, can you see that different muscle? That is what we call the rump cap, or the picanha, which is a more trendy name for it. And this there, there's probably different, can you see this muscle there? That's like a round eyepiece. It almost, has the shape of fillet. It's a little bit more tasty. But that is what I know. Now, there'll be a few different names for it, but that is what I know as the rumpet. So instead of taking it in half, we're going to just treat these muscles as different groups. We're not going to cook them all today, but I just thought I'd show you what a best rump steak looks like, what a rump cap or a picanha looks like, and then what a rumpet looks like. So for the purpose of this video, we're going to be using this part of the rump steak. Of course, you can use sirloin steak, ribeye, skirt, anything like that you want, but we're going to be doing this, and just for me to show you for the benefit of the video. So, usually you see me, if you've watched these videos before, I put salt on after it's been sealed by a bit of heat on all sides, so we're not messing about too much. I'm going to put the salt on now and the pepper on now, but I will put the oil on. Now, it is worth mentioning that I'm not putting the salt on, 10 minutes before we're ready to cook it, an hour before, or even days before. I'm going to put the salt on just now, and we'll be putting it in the oven pretty much straight away, so it'll not draw that moisture out. On with the salt. Be generous. And for a steak about that big, we'll give it, 2-3 minutes each side. Turn it over, see how it looks. Once you start getting a pool of, red exudative on the top, then you know it's medium rare. Waiting for that to cook in there, in the grill, we're going to make the cream and mushroom sauce. Now, if you cook the steak in the pan, it's a bit hot that. If you cook the steak in the pan, you can deglass the pan, which basically means leave the meat juices in, then make the sauce, but we're grilling it, so we don't have that option today. So into the pan first, a little bit of olive oil, and we put the shallots and the garlic. Don't let them burn, just let them absorb the oil and just soften a little bit. Then in with the mushrooms. Now the trick is to this, don't add your cream or any other liquid until the mushrooms have taken on just a bit of colour and crozzled nicely. You don't want any soft mushrooms. I like them with just a little bit of char flavour on them. Season the dish with salt and pepper. So without letting the onions or the garlic burn, and when those mushrooms have started, please cameraman, when those mushrooms have just started taking on some colour, turn it down a little bit, and we'll add some white wine and let the alcohol burn off. Remember to have a slurp yourself. Now, when the alcohol stopped burning off, turn the heat way down low so your cream doesn't curdle, and then just add a little bit of double cream in there. That will reduce, so put a bit more in than looks right. And then gently increase the heat while stirring. Let that come to the boil. As soon as it hits the boil, turn it down low and let it simmer for 5 minutes or so. So once that bubbles away and is brought to the boil, bring it way down low and let it just simmer away nicely. So when that is the consistency you want, we will then add a little bit of parsley, and don't add your parsley on top at the end. I'm not really up for garnishing dishes with parsley. Why not get all the fresh moisture out? That parsley makes it really fresh and lifts this side. Mix that in, let some of the flavour seep through, and a little knob of butter if you want. Why not? So when the steak comes out of the oven and is left to rest, we add mushroom sauce, the king of all sides. And there, ladies and gentlemen, it's probably one of my death row meals. Enjoy, everybody.